just constantly hearing bad news. Global stuff, local stuff, natural disasters, violence. It just seems like the world feels a bit less safe, maybe less comfortable than it used to. That stress, it's real.
It really is. It's not just you feeling it.
Yeah, I mean, look at this. A 2017 survey, American Psychological Association, found that 2/3, like 2 out of 3 Americans were stressed about the future of the U.S.
Wow, 2/3. That's significant.
Totally. And the biggest stressor, the political climate, 57%, but also things like personal safety, that was 34%, the economy, 44%, terrorism, 34%, mass shootings, gun violence, 31%.
A whole range of major concern.
Exactly. And the symptoms people reported, headaches, feeling overwhelmed, anxious, sad, you know the drill. And get this. The number reporting at least one symptom jumped from 71% in 2016 to 80% in 2017.
A noticeable jump in just 1 year.
Right. And it hit women, younger people, and lower-income Americans harder. So, okay, with all this stress swirling around, the big question is, how do we actually handle it? Not just cope, but, really thrive.
That's exactly what we're diving into today. We're going to unpack resilience.
Okay.
But maybe not in the way most people think about it.
Yeah.
We're exploring how it's built, how it gets stronger, through our connections with other people, and how creativity fits into that whole picture.
Interesting. Connections and creativity.
Yeah. So our mission for you listening is to really get what resilience means, maybe in a new way, and to see how good, supportive relationships and, thinking outside the box can be huge assets, even when things get really tough.
Okay. So resilience, when you say that word, I immediately picture, the lone wolf. The tough guy, stoic, just bounces back from anything.
That's the classic image, isn't it? The rubber ball idea.
Yeah.
Like it's just some internal quality you're born with.
Right, something you either have or you don't.
And, traditional models often pointed to things within the person, like their temperament, maybe intelligence, self-esteem, this thing called internal locus of control, believing you're in charge of your destiny.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Right. And mastery, social support. But often framed as something the individual gets from others, not necessarily a two-way street.
Okay, so the focus is really internal.
Primarily. But there's a really important critique of that. Pearl Sigal, writing for the New York Times, she called resilience a potentially convenient catchword.
Convenient how?
Well, her point was that focusing only on the individual's ability to bounce back can kind of let us off the hook from looking at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
The social conditions, the things that might actually be isolating people or holding them down.
Ah, I see. So it puts all the pressure on the person.
Exactly. And Segal suggests it can even subtly shame people who protest injustice. Like if you don't just get over it, it's seen as a personal failing, a failure of character.
Like blaming someone for not having enough willpower.
Precisely. Like how people used to view alcoholism. It ignores all the complex factors involved.
Okay, wait. This is fascinating. So if it's not just about individual toughness, you're saying it's more relational, it grows between people. That's a big shift.
It is a fundamental shift. And that's where relational cultural theory, or RCT, comes in. It sees resilience not as a fixed trait, but as something that actively grows and gets stronger within relationships.
How does that work?
It emphasizes relationships that foster mutual growth, where both people, or everyone in the group, helps each other develop. There's a powerful metaphor from Native American wisdom, the sick forest.
Okay.
Trying to fix resilience individualistically is like taking one sick tree out of a sick forest, trying to make it healthy in isolation, and then putting it back into that same unhealthy environment and expecting it to thrive.
Right, that wouldn't work. The forest itself is the problem.
Exactly. True healing means healing the whole forest, the whole system. We need to look at what nourishes people's roots or what poisons them.
So how does RCT define resilience, then, in this relational way?
Well, key figures like Jean Baker Miller and Judith Jordan define it as essentially the capacity to move back into connection after disconnection.
Okay, reconnecting.
And the capacity to reach out for help. And here's the crucial part. When you do reach out and someone actually meets you with real support, that interaction itself builds your resilience. It nourishes it.
That makes so much sense. Because trauma and stress, especially from things like injustice or being invalidated, they often make people pull away, disconnect from others, and maybe even from their own sense of worth, their dignity.
Absolutely. Disconnection is a hallmark of trauma.
So if connection builds resilience, how do we foster that reconnection, especially when people feel disconnected from their own dignity?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And one of the most powerful ways seems to be through recognizing and affirming the dignity of all people.
Dignity.
Yes, there's actually a global network focused entirely on this, called Human Dignity and Humiliation Studies, Human DHS for short.
Tell me about them.
It's this amazing, diverse group, scholars, lawyers, artists, activists, you name it, all working together to understand dignity and how humiliation damages it.
So it's not just academic talk.
Not at all. They're focused on real-world change in art, business, politics, global conflict. Really trying to put dignity into practice. The founding director, Evelyn Linder, she's actually been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize several times for this work.
Wow. Okay. So how do they define humiliation?
Linder describes it as being deeply devalued, demeaned, denigrated, or dehumanized. It's a powerful force that really shreds relationships and, of course, dignity. And importantly, they point out how systems based on dominance and hierarchy often use humiliation deliberately to keep power, to block equality, often fueled by arrogance, by privilege.
That's heavy. It makes you think. So what does this mean for how we should handle disagreements or just differences between people, especially now when everything feels so polarized?
Right. Well, Linda Hartling, who's the director of Human DHS, suggests we need a conscious shift. Move away from that me versus you language, that language of division, and move towards what she calls a relational ecology, basically putting the quality of our relationships front and center, relationships with each other and even with the planet.
Relational ecology. I like that.
And a key part of that is decoupling our sense of self-worth from things like money, status, power, what some call economism. Because basing your value on external stuff makes your dignity fragile. Real dignity is inherent, and it thrives in connection.
So how do they practice this? How do you have difficult conversations without resorting to humiliation?
They use something called relational dialogue. It draws on appreciative inquiry, which means being genuinely curious, really listening, trying to understand rather than judge immediately.
Resisting snap judgments. That's hard.
It is. And they also embrace this idea of waging good conflict from Jean Baker Miller. The idea is you could disagree, even strongly, but you do it in a way that doesn't destroy the relationship. You focus on the issue, not attacking the person.
Respectful disagreement, focusing on the problem.
Exactly. So ultimately, dignity is presented as the bedrock. It's the foundation for resilience, the fabric that holds society together, and really the starting point for the creativity we need to make positive change.
Okay, that connects dignity and resilience really clearly. Now, bringing creativity, how does that fit into this relational picture?
Oh, it's kind of a cool way to think about it. You know, the second law of thermodynamics, basically things tend towards disorder, towards chaos, entropy.
Like my desk.
Exactly. Well, human creativity can be seen as sort of the opposing force. It's the process that brings order, creates something new out of potential chaos. And in fields like counseling, it's seen as a co-creative process.
Co-creative between counselor and a client?
Precisely. It's defined in counseling as a shared process involving growth-promoting shifts that happen because you're intentionally focusing on the therapeutic relationship and harnessing that natural human ability to create change.
Okay, but creativity can be used for bad things too, right? Devising schemes, revenge.
Absolutely. Human ingenuity can be destructive. But the kind of creativity we're talking about here in a healing or growth context is seen as antithetical to these dehumanizing forms. It's about building safe spaces, strengthening dignity, fostering growth, all within that relational container.
Okay, that distinction is important. Can you give an example? Make it concrete. The source mentioned one about child safety staff.
Yes, that's a really powerful one.
So picture this. A family, very loving, but living in really extreme poverty. No running water, no heat, struggling for food.
A really tough situation.
Yeah. And their kids, they only had maybe 1 or 2 sets of old, dirty clothes. They were getting bullied terribly at school because of how they looked, humiliated. It got so bad the Department of Child Safety, DCS, had to step in.
Okay. And the typical response there might be drastic.
Right. Often, tragically, it involves removing the kids. But here's what's amazing. The DCS staff, instead of just following standard procedure, they got creative. They used their resourcefulness.
What do they do?
They arranged for the kids to use the school showers privately early in the morning before classes started. And they didn't stop there. They also connected the family with social services to get food, clothes, other basic needs met.
Wow. That's thinking completely differently.
Exactly. It's what the source calls divergent thinking. Instead of the default potentially traumatizing path, they found a solution that did what?
It kept the family together.
Yes, it preserved the family relationships, it honored everyone's dignity, the kids, the parents, and it actually improved the health of the whole system. The family, the school, the services, everyone working together.
That's a fantastic illustration of creative, relational problem solving leading to real systemic change.
It really is, and seeing that, it makes you think about moving beyond just coping with trauma. Is it possible to actually transform it? How does understanding resilience and maybe self-compassion help with that?
That's the idea of post-traumatic growth. And yes, while loss is devastating, horrible things happen. There is hope for growth afterwards. Researchers like Tedeschi and Calhoun and Bessel van der Kolk, who wrote The Body Keeps the Score, they talk about recovery not just being about managing symptoms.
Okay.
It's more about engaging in the true possibility for living life fully again. Sometimes, really, for the first time. People can come out of trauma with a deeper appreciation for their own strength, found through vulnerability, a much higher value placed on relationships, maybe new spiritual insights, or even finding a whole new direction in life, finding new meaning.
That's a really hopeful perspective on something incredibly difficult. So if individuals can experience this kind of growth, how do we apply these ideas globally?
Well, the call really becomes for us to be relational bridge builders, especially now with all the crises we're facing, climate change, social division. We need people, communities, organizations with the resilience to push through these huge obstacles that undermine dignity and, frankly, threaten the planet. We need everyone's creativity to find solutions.
And Human DHS, the Dignity Network you mentioned, seems like an example of that.
A prime example of this global creativity in action. Turning ideas into tangible actions that strengthen resilience, plant those seeds of dignity everywhere. Their core idea, right from the start, was pretty radical. Put the quality of relationships first.
And it's working. It's sustainable.
Well, look at their reach. About 1,000 invited members, over 7,000 friends. They've held conferences on almost every continent since 2003. Europe, Costa Rica, China, South Africa, India. They launched a World Dignity University initiative, a Dignity Press. It shows sustained, collaborative action as possible. And they push us to ask the big questions. How can humanity organize itself sustainably? Can we actually give our kids a dignified future? Is global cooperation even possible?
Those are definitely the questions of our time.
And participants often talk about this profound sense of meaning they get from it. Meeting people from all over the world, united in dignifying mutuality, as they say. Michael Britton, one member, called it a home where the labors of inquiry, honesty, integrity, dignity, trust, humility are at the heart of who we are.
That sounds incredibly powerful. And yet, it's also a reminder, isn't it, that resilience, even with all this effort, can be fragile. Kara's story, it really highlights that. Despite connection, despite courage, sometimes it's not enough. What's the key lesson there?
Kara's story is heartbreaking. And yes, it's a stark reminder. No one is immune to crisis. The path to resilience isn't always straightforward. It's not guaranteed, no matter the support. I think the crucial lesson is recognizing our interdependence. Yes, we work on our own resilience, but we are deeply, profoundly affecting each other's resilience all the time, for better or sometimes for worse. Her story just underscores that it takes constant shared effort to build and maintain these relational ecosystems that truly hold us. We can't leave anyone isolated.
What a journey through this topic. So we've really unpacked that resilience isn't just about you, the individual. It's this shared relational thing.
Built on dignity.
Built on dignity, yeah, and fueled by creativity and connection. We really wanted this deep dive to give you a shortcut to understanding this vital idea, hopefully with some insights that stick.
And just to reiterate, nobody gets a free pass from crises or trauma in life. The path isn't always easy to see.
Yeah.
But understanding these wider forces, the systems, the relationships that either help us or hurt us, that understanding is absolutely key to navigating it all.
Right.
And maybe, as a final thought, you could reflect on that pledge from Evelyn Linder at Human DHS.
Remind us.
I am committed, to the best of my abilities, to encouraging and supporting the dignity of all people, and to counteracting and transforming practices of humiliation at all levels, from personal to systemic levels.
That's powerful. So maybe the question for everyone listening is, after hearing all this, what's one small thing you could do this week? One small act of dignifying connection, or maybe some creative problem solving in your own life, your own community.